A wonderfully sweet, but oh so feisty 100-year-old woman once told me I was ordinary. I've spent the better part of my life since then trying to live up to that amazing compliment. How is what I'd like to share with you today. You see, being ordinary can have its own very special and personal reward. A little more than 2 months ago, students here at the AUC invited me to give a TED talk. My initial reaction, of course, was yes. And I thought, why? More to the point, it was more like, what? Me? What would I have to share? I was an avid viewer of TED Talks like the one you saw before. I was inspired by them. I was motivated by them. I laughed when they laughed. I even cried when they cried. They were so inspiring. The technology was there. The entertainment was there. And oh, the design. I once saw a creative lady talk about having to go back to play so that she could get back her creativity. What would I have to share to spread what idea? I couldn't ask them. They may have sensed my fear. They may have asked somebody else. So I had to set up a personal survey and ask friends, family, mere acquaintances, associates, colleagues, and even some adversaries. 5 questions. Tell me what you see when you see me. Only condition, there must be one negative. This is what came back. I imagine the people who are laughing are the ones who know me. And so from that, I extrapolated. Oh, that's too technical a word. I grouped everything together, and this was the personality. This is what I was reflecting. This is what the students were seeing. A person of high moral value. And see how many of the responses were grouped into that section. The man is a saint. Extrovert, yes. Speaks well. Intelligent, well, that's debatable. Professional, I have to be in my professions. Other, yes. But the only thing there that stood out was willing to learn. I spent so much of my time in libraries. I love libraries. That was true. This person I didn't recognize. No nonsense. Can take criticism. Brave. Speak to my wife and the kids about the incident with the mouse and our dog, how that saved the family. This is Bad Boy Joe. Idiosyncratic, no respect for time, a little bit of a pushover, too diplomatic, I say tactful, intrusive. Me says inappropriate thing. Martha Graham, a famed dancer and choreographer, said, what people in the world think of you is really none of your business. And it's very true. You do you and let me do me. But it was important that I find out, what did they see to think that this person, courtesy of the Oxford English Dictionary, uninteresting, what would I have to say? I'm just a plain old Joe. And then it got me to thinking of other moments in my life when I had said, what? Me? Like when I wrote a poem on the way after having arrived in England From the Commonwealth of Dominica, 3 years later, I had listened to a broadcast, a speech by Enoch Powell in 1968. He was saying people from the Commonwealth like me were not welcome. I wrote a poem. My teacher said, that should be published. What? Me at age 11? An activist? A poet? I'm more interested in football. Why, in the West Indies, I was playing cricket. And here I am now, I'm playing football. I'm doing the tricks. Oh, yes, that's what I want to do. And I had a big ball, a football. You know, it was taken away. Why? Because in my practice, I broke so many of the neighbors' glass, they took it away from me. So many gardens I'd jumped into to retrieve my ball. I was confined to playing with a tennis ball. I still did my tricks with my tennis ball. Ooh, ooh, oh, oh. I played semi-professional football. I traveled Europe with my teenage colleagues. I played international football in a pre-World Cup qualifier for one of the islands. What? Me? Play for a team? My wife volunteered my service. My husband is an international footballer. School needed a team. Not enough boys to make a boys' team, not enough girls to make a girls' team. What do? You put them together and you make the most amazing youth talent that you had ever seen. Their only advice, it's not about winning, it's about enjoying. They enjoyed and they won. Came to the day of the final and they ran up to me. Sir, they're so big. And they were big. I'm sure I saw a couple of them driving to the game, the opponents. Beards, mustaches, but we won. What, me? A coach? My friend Fabian said to me, you arrange the art, I will arrange the exhibition. I'd only been drawing from the age of 6, even painting by numbers. Me, an artist? Leave that to Roland Richardson. You heard about the Trinity of Color? Me, artist? Had an exhibition in Washington, had an exhibition in Cuba, and a beautiful article about a monument that I had painted in St. Martin. What? Me, an artist? Me on stage playing a lead role in Stephen Leacock Behind the Beyond? I'd only gone for a casting call to have a little bit of fun. Me? On stage? Me get paid for feeling other people's pain? Standardized patient with some fabulous, talented trainers and people. What? Me? I wasn't always ordinary. You see, in the UK, I had earned a 3-year scholarship to train in a school of journalists. Afterwards, it was recognized in a documentary, and I was asked, what do you want to do? What is your ambition? I want to be a newsreader. I want to use my voice to read the news, and I want to return to the Caribbean, and I did. And it was in Grenada that ordinary came at the height of my celebrity. What does that mean? In Grenada, I was reporting on the Maurice Bishop murder trial. It was listened to with rapt attention by radio listeners from the Bahamas in the north, all the way down to Guyana in the south and Suriname. It was a communist island, Grenada. The American forces had come in. There was courtroom drama afterwards. And I'd gone to the country, and there was a lady, 100 years old. She wanted to meet this voice that she'd been hearing, this story, drama unfolding every day. And she wanted to meet this Joe Dominique. I went to her home, gracious, hosted, gave me some refreshment. We spoke about family as you do, who you for, who you're not for. We even spoke in Creole. She hadn't spoken in Creole for years. She loved it. À toi. And then she said to me, "You sure you Joe Dominique?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. You heard a voice. But you're so ordinary." I didn't take it as an insult because it meant that my feet were firmly planted on the ground. I was plain old Joe and loving it. It was just amazing. You know, Rosa Parks was just an ordinary passenger when she refused to get up from the front to go to the back of the bus. Her defiance changed the face of America. It also led in Montgomery, Alabama, that day, 1955, to the launch of the career of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Ordinary people do the most extraordinary things at times of disaster, as you see in so many disasters all around the world. One close to home, Brent Lowe, 49-year-old ordinary father who took his 24-year-old son, put him on his shoulder. The son had cerebral palsy. Abaco Island. He inched his way out of a home where the roof had been ripped off, water coming up to his chin, his son on his shoulders, adult son, a neighbor helping, made only less ordinary by the fact that Mr. Lowe was blind. Ordinary people do such extraordinary things. I'd like to tell you about a son who made an incredible, if mundane, respectful promise to his dying mother. And before that, I should tell you that I'm an avid gardener. And one thing about gardeners, and on St. Martin, gardeners here are really generous. We exchange cuttings and plants, and that's how you build your stock. And one day, I was driving by a tall wall, beautiful flowers. I found out later it's called a spiral ginger. And spiral ginger has some succulent green leaves, and it has a red cone. And in that cone, there's a flower that comes out at a different angle every morning. It's just so beautiful. The white flower is like a crepe dress. It's the most amazing and beautiful thing. And then when the last flower gets to the top, all you're left with is the cone. And the cone itself is beautiful. And I saw it and I had to have a cutting. And I stopped. I went across the road and went to the gate. And in the garden inside was a man, and he was watering his plants. For maybe 5, 6 dogs were running around, and he was chasing them off, and they were coming and they were playing, and he didn't have a shirt on. His belt was unbuckled. He was bare feet. Hair was uncombed, and he kept mumbling and he kept talking. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but he was watering his plants. When he caught my eye, he asked, "Yes?" And I said, I like. He told me it was a spiral ginger. He said, "Not a problem." He put the hose down. He went to get a spade. He dug out the root, gave me one. I started to walk away. He said, "Do you want another one?" I said, "Yes, please." And he dug up another one and gave it to me. I shook it. I had 2, and the second one was even bigger than the first. And I walked away, and as I walked away, I said, journalistic instinct, something's happening here. And I walked back and I said, "Hey, what's going on? I saw you. Is something wrong? You've talked." And he said, "Man," he said, "I made this promise to my mother, and I wish I'd never made the promise. I told her every morning I would come and I would water her plants, and I would also talk to the plants like she did and try to keep the garden going." And he said, "But I have to pay for water. It's a drought, and I haven't got money. And she told me to talk to the plants. I don't know what to say." I said, "Well, maybe you should just try talking with a softer tone." I swear I heard his mother say, "Amen, Joe." Amazing. Ordinary people do the most amazing thing. I'd like to leave you with this quote from Oprah Winfrey. She says, "Be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough." I'm thankful for ordinary, because with ordinary, I've been privileged to meet the most extraordinary, ordinary people on God's good earth. It's just been amazing. Who, me? Oh, who else? And that's what I'd like to share with you today.